is a presentation of SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media Incorporated.
Which NFL draft picks threw you for a loop? What does the movement say about the quarterback position? Did a team improve enough to become a contender? Those questions answered and more on episode 35 of Total Football Talk Live. And that begins now. Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. I'm your co-host, Drew Willingham, and we are back for episode 35 to recap the UFL Week 5 action as the St. Louis Battlehawks blow out the helpless DC Defenders. And today, I have a special returning co-host. Introducing the EP of all EPs, the co-host of Mentality, the Creative Services Director for BS3 Network, host of the Morning Shift with his namesake, the co-host of this program returning from a 41-day absence of handling some business. Give it up for my brother, Cole Johnson.
Wow. Man, it's great to feel like a guest in my own home. But it's great to be back. Thank you so much. Wonderful introduction. One of the best I've ever received. So thank you, sir.
Hey, all those episodes that we have worked previously, I learned some things from you. Like, you've rubbed off on me. It's like I said, I was an understudy, and now I've gotten my license, and I get to drive this. We are here for episode 35 of Total Football Talk. Happy to have you back, brother. But I told you, I had to give you a special intro for the return, as today was a special day. The past 2 days have been special. My man celebrated his 29th birthday yesterday, for one.
Yes.
And he had the debut, the inaugural episode of the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson this morning. I was asleep during that time and going to go back and check it this evening. But how was it? Was it a fun experience to getting that episode off the ground this morning?
You know, it actually was. I mean, it was nerve-wracking, of course. You wanted to make sure all I's dotted, all T's crossed, and I didn't get exactly all of what I wanted before air. But once I started rolling, it felt good. It felt comfortable, and it was great to actually be in, I guess, new rarefied air, to try something new, try something different. It's something that I've been feeling to actually need to do for a long time, and a dream that I've had since I was 8. It's come true today, and I actually feel really good.
I'm looking forward to checking it out before Monday Night Raw tonight. After this show, it's in there. It's in the mix. I'm watching it tonight, like while I'm eating dinner. So I'm going to let you know what I think. But guys, definitely go back and check it out. I shared it on my page as well, so you can go back and click on the link for those of you who are watching, who are friends with me on Facebook. Go back and check it out. But for right now, we have the return of Cole, and we got some football to talk about on this episode. And we got to get it started with the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
here with the opening drive. We've got 4 games from this past weekend, UFL action. We'll get to the NFL draft here in a little bit, guys, but sticking with how the format's been ever since the UFL started, 5 weeks ago, we now have our 5th consecutive week of football. It's back, and you all know that when it kicked off, once it kicked off 5 weeks ago, we have football every single week until the end of the year. It's a beautiful thing for those of you like myself and Cole out there who love the game of football. And the first game that we have to talk about here is the Birmingham Stallions, 5th straight victory. They are definitely decimating this league right here when it comes to how things are going in the UFL. Adrian Martinez comes back after a week off with Matt Corral playing last week, 155 passing yards and a touchdown with 9 carries, 138 yards to add to that as well. Larry Roundtree III, 9 carries, 50 yards with a touchdown, along with Ricky Person Jr.'s 14 carries, 25 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jay Sternberger also contributed with 2 receptions of 46 yards and a touchdown, along with Deion Kane adding 3 receptions for 33 yards. The Stallions defense, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, included Neville Clark and JoJo Tillery on those 2 interceptions. Reed Sinnett for the Roughnecks, though, 203 passing yards, a touchdown and interception. Not enough to get it done as they only put 9 points on the board from that touchdown. But Justin Hall, 11 receptions, 93 yards, and Kiki Chisholm, 7 receptions, 88 yards, contributed to Reed Sinnett's success on that day, as the Houston Roughnecks running backs still continue to struggle in the running game with 36 rushing yards on 14 attempts, Cole. From this game right here, this lopsided game, as we've seen many lopsided games in the UFL by this team this year. What are your thoughts based on all that being said on this game?
Oh, man. All right. Without even looking at the game, and I saw a little bit of it, but without even looking at the game, whenever I see 14 carries, I don't care if it's even for 14 or less yards, but if I see 14 carries for a game, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that offensive coordinator and saying, "So you mean to tell me you just wanted to throw all the time?" You have to establish a physicality. Look, it's all cute and pretty if you throw it, but you gotta have balance. You gotta run it. 14 times is not enough. And yes, I know the Roughnecks offense is horrible. Heck, they are the worst in the league when it comes to scoring. And it's not even close. So I understand that. But you have to achieve something running, at least 25 attempts. And if you get 25 or less yards, so be it. But at least you attempted to run the ball. So that is one thing. The other, of course, is just the Stallions being the Stallions. And any defense that allows 13 points a game like they do, all I got to do is go. So I'm not surprised that they held the Roughnecks to 9. And I'm not surprised that the Stallions basically sleptwalked through the game and won it. And Adrian Martinez decided to channel his Lamar Jackson. I'm not surprised.
Looking at this, even the previous week, the Roughnecks, when they played against the Renegades in the Toilet Bowl, when you look at the 2 defeated teams, didn't have a win up until that point. Roughnecks' first win of the season. They only mustered up 76 yards on 23 attempts in their running game, and that was their best game of the season as far as rushing goes. Their offensive line has struggled quite a bit, which, of course, when we see numbers like this, you can definitely contribute it to the offensive line is struggling in the blocking game with that, with their run blocking. So it's definitely been a struggle to watch throughout these 5 weeks for the Roughnecks. If they didn't play the Arlington Renegades last week, had they played any other team, they'd be 0-5 right now, just like the Renegades. It's just how bad they're playing. They're the 2 worst teams in the league right now.
Not even a question.
Moving on to our next game right there. On this list, it was kind of hard to pick a game of the week, and especially when you see a game like this. I couldn't even give it to the Battlehawks putting up 45 points. That's why they were omitted from this. 45-12 was the final score as the Battlehawks decimated the defenders right here. It was absolutely atrocious to watch. And when you look at this game, A.J. McCarron, 213 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns on the season now through 5 games and only 1 interception. He is playing like the MVP of the league, should be put in that category. I'm at least nominating him already through 5 weeks for MVP of the league. But Jacob Sailors, 12 carries, 52 yards and a touchdown, along with Wayne Gallman II. And yes, it's not Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II there, Cole.
Junior.
It's Wayne. Hey, Wayne Gallman II. Okay. 10 carries, 31 yards, and 1 touchdown. Those numbers right there on the running, game right there definitely help contribute towards those 45 points for the Battlehawks. Hakeem Butler, though, was even bigger. 6 receptions, 147 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns, along with Ja'Cour Pearson's 3 receptions for 43 yards, helped muster up those 213 combined passing yards for A.J. McCarron. Along with the Battlehawks defense, 2 sacks and 3 interceptions by Mike Rose, Brandon Sebastian, and Cameron Kelly. Along with the fumble recovery, this Battlehawks defense was hot, which contributed to why the defenders only put up 12 points on the day. Jordan Damu, 101 passing yards, a touchdown, and those 3 interceptions, along with 4 carries, 26 rushing yards. Just couldn't get it done against this Battlehawks defense, as aforementioned. Kelvin Harmon's 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown keeps his continuous weak streak of a touchdown alive. But the defenders' running backs had 30 total rushing attempts for 84 yards. Very similar to the Roughnecks numbers from the week prior against the Renegades. And they only had 1 touchdown, and that was from Cameron Harris. Along with the defenders' defense, 3 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries, it just wasn't enough to get it done today. On that day, on Sunday, what are your thoughts when it comes to this game right here between the Battlehawks and the defenders there, Cole?
Well, you have a team that's trying to battle, and they're trying to find a positive in the defenders. I mean, they came into the game 2-2, so they're trying to establish some sort of positive motivation. But when you come against a brick wall like the Battlehawks are at the moment, and AJ McCarron is rolling like he is, it's hard. It's difficult, and this could be one of those deflating types of defeats for the defenders, where they look at this game and say, "Dang, we tried to do stuff, and we can't even come close. We can't even sniff being one of the best in the league." Because, I mean, the defense had a decent day. Look, the running backs, and this is what I was talking about with the Roughnecks. They only got 84 yards, 30 attempts. I can appreciate that because they're trying to establish physicality. I like that. So they're doing all they can. They're doing all they can muster. It just isn't good enough. It's unfortunate because you got a team in the Battlehawks. They're just freewheeling, and when you have a team in the Battlehawks that are freewheeling like they are, the sky's the limit for that team. And like you said, McCarron is rolling so tough. He might be the MVP of the league. So you have to come with a big time effort, and when you don't, you could get skunked, like unfortunately the defenders did. So hats off to the Battlehawks, but I hope the defenders don't hang their heads. They just went up against a better team, and they had one of their better games of the year.
The Battlehawks, ever since the first game of the season when they lost to the Panthers, I mean, that was our pick for the game of the week for that first spring game, that first weekend of spring action. They only lost 18-16 to the Michigan Panthers in the week 1. And Jake Bates, that was the game that he had the 64-yard field goal. So had he not kicked that 64-yard field goal, we could be talking about the Battlehawks being 5-0 right now, Cole. Mm-hmm. So 4 straight wins. They are just as hot right now as the Birmingham Stallions, and the only team right now at this moment that I can see handing the Stallions a loss. And that's, I believe it's it's either week 6 or week 8. I think it's week 8. Yeah, because it's not next week's game. So week 8, I think that's when they see the Stallions. And at that point, that could be the matchup of the season, a good preview for what the playoffs could look like at some point. So looking at this game right here, definitely was pretty lopsided. And I was talking with Cool McCain. I will get Cool McCain for a second. I will give you your flowers because last week, we were talking about this game. And, he was telling me that I told him that the way he was going off of the defenders, he might be salty because there's no Philadelphia Soul team in the league anymore. Okay. And then he was telling me that I was being a homer because I'm close to the team. So one way or another, I guess, Cool McCain, you were right on that day about this team lose it. And I give you your flowers, my man. I will give you this right here, Cool McCain, of all people.
Acknowledge me.
Eagles versus Commanders crime. Lord, why am I not shocked?
Before we move on to the rest of the games to open and drive, let's acknowledge the comments in the chat. Mickey Delaney says, let's go. Thank
What's
you for
up,
showing
Nick?
up there, Cole, he says. And
Thank you.
Sick has our back right here. He knows what's up
Thank you,
because
Sick.
he says, Mickey Delaney, give them a moment. They might be experiencing some technical problems. Let's not rush them. Yes, you know, the internet.
Thank you, Sick.
Internet was giving some problems for a minute, but we are back on track.
Oh, yeah.
And Melvin Turismo is here.
Melvin, it's good to see you.
Melvin is back, man. Like it's been nice to see you back here lately there, Melvin. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hey, Melvin Turismo says sick dig, and Duckman7 is in the house. Well, Duckman just says 7.
Good 7.
And then he says, even if the Stallions win week 7, I have no doubt the championship game is St. Louis and Birmingham. Yeah,
and I think he's saying the Battlehawks and Stallions will be meeting in week 7. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was week 8, but thank you for correcting me. When it comes to that, week 7 is the matchup. So not this upcoming week, but the week after. We will see this matchup could potentially be the matchup of the season. Hopefully, it's a really good game and it's not lopsided.
Right.
So, with that being said, let's move on to our next game. So with our next game here, Cole, we got the Brahmas and the Panthers and the Showboats. Panthers, 35-18. It was a weekend of lopsided action for the most part, except for the next game. But you know, the Panthers improved to 3-2. The Showboats fall to 1-4. And with that being said, in this game, Danny Etling, 175 passing yards, 5 carries, 10 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground, but still not enough to really make a difference in the running game. 5 carries, 10 yards, not really a whole lot, but I guess you get the ball in the end zone, that quarterback sneak. 16 carries, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns, though, by West Hill was the dominating factor for their running attack for the Panthers, along with Matthew Colburn, the second, 15 carries, 68 yards, and 1 touchdown. Cole Hakatini, 3 receptions for 64 yards, helped out with the offense, but the Panthers' defense was the story of the day for the most part. 7 sacks, 2 interceptions. Kai Nakua's 3rd consecutive game with an interception, along with Adonis Alexander contributing for the other interception in this game. 3 fumble recoveries by this defense put the stamp on approval for this game for them right there. Troy Williams on the other side of the Showboats filling in for Case Cook is 248 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Not bad except for the 2 interceptions. But the Showboats running backs, again, with the poor running display, 41 yards on the ground on 11 attempts. David Davis, though, 6 receptions, 101 yards and a touchdown. And Jonathan Adams, 2 receptions, 45 yards and a touchdown, were the bright spots for the Memphis Showboats on this day. But when you muster all this and put it all in perspective, what are your thoughts after watching this game right here?
Now, see, when I see the stat line of 41 rushing yards on 11 rush attempts, that upsets me. As an offensive lineman, I would go to the coaching staff, the offensive line coach, the offensive coordinator, and I say, "Come on now, let's pound that rock." I mean, one of these running backs is bound to break one, and if you're close to 4 yards a carry, which that is what this total is, you got to go with more than that. And it would have helped because the Panthers defense knew that you would drop it back and pass it, obviously, because you had 2 picks that they got from the backup QB of the Showboats. So when you have that as an issue, you got to run more, and that sticks out like a sore thumb. But look, credit Troy Williams. He did his thing as best as he could, but you can't be making mistakes in the pocket, obviously. And he took a beating.
Yes,
he took a drubbing. So, yeah, to me, when I see a high amount of sacks and a low amount of rushing attempts, I would say to them, run the ball more. Don't put your QB in that type of situation where you're going to bring more harm to him. And yeah, I know the deficit is 17 points at the end of the day. I know that. But your offensive line can't give up 7 sacks, and you can't only run the ball 11 times too.
No,
You just can't do that.
no, you definitely can't. And this team, along with the Panther, not the Panthers, but the say the Renegades
Mm-hmm.
and the Roughnecks are one of the three teams in the league that have really been struggling on the ground. They've been really struggling with the running game, and all three fronts with their offensive linemen have not been looking great either. And that's the reason why, two of those teams are 1-4 and one of them's 0-5, and where we're at this point in the season. But definitely great analysis right there, especially knowing from being a former offensive lineman, like you got to get it done in the trenches, because if you don't, you're not going to have success at all in any phase of the offense.
Right. And you just look at the other side. I mean, that's what the Panthers did. You had two backs. One got over 55 yards. The other got over 80. And they combined 4 TDs. So I love to call them the big uglies. If you give the big uglies the opportunity to control the trenches, you'd be surprised. Even if it's a porous offensive line, you'll be surprised.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprising aspect of the game when you have everything clicking on all cylinders, but when you see it the opposite, it's not a pretty sight to see either. So we'll have to see how things pan out for this team, for the remainder of the season, as we're halfway through it at this point. But we now have to get to our game of the week, and it was a very hard one to pick, kind of, because of how things worked out. But here's our game of the week right here, and we got to look at the Brahmas and the Renegades, another team that has definitely been clicking on all cylinders for the most part this season. The San Antonio Brahmas against a dumpster Pelican team in the Arlington Renegades. And for this game of the week, I was talking with Cole yesterday. I was like, man, it's going to be tough to pick the game of the week just because of how lopsided these games have been. And this one, even though it's close in score, for the most part, it felt kind of lopsided by the Brahmas for the most part throughout this game. Quentin Dormady, 164 passing yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. He's the backup quarterback filling in, but he's doing a pretty decent job, in his second consecutive start, leading them to another victory. John Lovett, 13 carries, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns, along with Morgan Ellison, 7 carries, 84 yards. The strong running attack definitely helped the Brahmas get over the hump in this game against the Renegades. Jontre Kirkland, 6 receptions, 43 yards, along with Tyrone Alizé McDummy, 3 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. We'll get into that here more in a minute. But Brahmas defense, 2 sacks and a fumble recovery, along with Luis Perez's, for the Renegades, 270 passing yards and a touchdown. He was keeping them in it, and it felt like at one point they might be able to take this game, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way. As J.P. Payton, 7 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown go to waste, along with Tyler Vaughn's 5 receptions, 45 yards. And the Renegades running backs, along with these teams that just cannot get it done on the ground here, 59 rushing yards on 24 attempts, averaging 2.5 yards per carry. When you look at this game right here, Cole, what were your thoughts looking at the highlights and the review back on this game?
Delete!
Oh my gosh.
You loved it.
Like, oh my gosh, why he had to mention him. Oh, okay. Other than Alizé Mack, which, yes, that is the real name of the running back that of a receiver that he mentioned in this game, the Brahmas receiver. I got to give credit to the Brahmas. They wanted to go balanced, and I think they had to do that considering it's a backup QB. So they went more balanced, and unfortunately, although yes, the Brahmas got the W. If Dormady is going to be going forward, starting in place of, you have to go to the drawing board. You can't have your QB tossing 3 picks. But the defense did do their job, and they picked up the slack. And although, yes, they allowed 270 yards in the air, as long as you can force interceptions or force fumbles, that's a cool thing. Man, but I feel for the Renegades. I mean, it sucks to say what I'm about to say, but now they're on 5, and Unfortunately, this game of the week is a moral victory for them. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this out of my mouth. This is a moral victory. They're trying any and everything, and unfortunately, it's like they're cooking spaghetti and they're getting noodles and they're seeing if it sticks. None of it is sticking at all. And if they have a good passing game like they did, it won't go too far. If they have a good receiving game, which JB Payton had, it doesn't go too far. Unfortunately, the defense couldn't hold enough, and the defense gave you 3 picks, and they still couldn't do much of anything. It's unfortunately they're at the stage where it's like they have to have moral victories, and it's unfortunate, but that's where they are. But credit to the Bombers for gutting it out. But man, this is tough. Although the Houstonian in me makes me really happy to see it.
So it's easy to say that through 5 weeks, they are our dumpster Pelican pick of the week. They are the top
By a
dumpster
mile.
Pelican off of the top, right there. Even though some of their games, like against the Defenders, they lost 29-28. It was a close game, and that was in week 3, I believe. Yep,
Right.
week 3 was when they lost 29-28. And then last week against the Roughnecks, it was a 17-9 game, so it was close there as well. But,
Yeah.
When you put all this into perspective, this doesn't look like a team overall that was just in the XFL championship the year prior. And, yes, they did get there with like a 4-6 record. They barely made the playoffs, but they got hot in the playoffs, and that's what matters. But even starting out 0-4 last week, I was telling Cool McCain, there's no way they're making the playoffs this year. And definitely now at 0-5, it's sealed. Like, there's no way, no how, if you win 5 consecutive games, which you're not, that you're going to come back and make the playoffs. So looking right here, that's the easy selection for the Dumpster Pelican team of the year so far. And let's go ahead and look at the comments before we go to our next phase of the program there, Cole. And we got Mickey Delaney saying, sorry, sick, I will stay in my lane. The comment cop getting reprimanded out here. Cool. Look at that. Sick. And then even Melvin's saying, what's up, Sick and Mick? He spelled it wrong, but we'll go with it, Sick and Mick. Love it there, Melvin. Along with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good evening to you, Sick.
Yeah, because it is evening time in Norway. We appreciate you tuning in there, sir. At Drew Willingham, the show isn't streaming on your channel. The viewers are wondering what's going on.
What's going on?
I don't know. Hopefully it's streaming over there. I don't know.
Interesting.
We'll go back and check it out later. If for some reason it's not streaming, I'll just re-upload it. We'll get it back up there later for the SIRTOBA medians. When it comes to, don't worry, at Mickey Delaney, things happen. Understand that the world still operates under Murphy's Law. Sick is throwing gems out here in the comments today. Never mind, it's working. My mistake, he says. Okay, cool. I didn't even see that part in there, but we're glad that it's back online. Temporary difficulties, I guess.
So, yes.
And Sick says, welcome back at Cole Sports, as it is a warm welcome and glad to have my man back in the building today.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Oh, the torment via a slow song, and the lock isn't here. We talked about the Renegades and Houston and all that great stuff. Yeah. But, that's why they've got one too many teams in Texas. They could have kept the Orlando Guardians. They could have kept another team. But unfortunately, we have to have too many teams in Texas in the UFL. But, guys, stick around. We're going to go to our first commercial break. When we come back, we got the gridiron scoop to go through, and we're going to start it off with the Texans and something that I've definitely been wanting to talk about with Cole for a couple of weeks now. We'll see you here on the other side of this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sport. Outlets. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Go check it out!
Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action as we just finished recapping Week 5 in the UFL for episode 35 of this edition. Total Football Talk, myself and Cole Johnson are back, and, we've got some things to cover here in the Gridiron Scoop. Talk about a little bit of NFL draft things and such. Let's go ahead and get to that and see what's on store for that. Now, last week we touched on this with Cool McCain, but since Cole's back and his team is the Texans here, I wanted to make sure that we got his take on this as well. And, the Texans GM Nick Caserio on running back Joe Mixon trade, we're glad he's here, hopefully for a few more years. Will Mixon flourish with the change in scenery in 2024, or will the Texans be seeking options at running back again for their first string next offseason?
See, it depends on the Joe Mixon we get. I like the Joe Mixon in 2021. He seemed to be in the flow of the offense, and he seemed to be a big cog in the Bengals' wheel as they went to the Super Bowl. But the 2023 version of him, one where, he got his numbers, he got over 1,000 yards. But it seemed, and I felt it when I watched Bengals games, it just seemed as though he wasn't a part of the mix. And that, if he would be that version, then yes, they would have to look for a starting running back next offseason. But if he's the 2021 version and they get good pieces around him and Dameon Pierce, who's now going to be the primary backup running back to Mixon, I like him in this offense because obviously it looks like they want to spread things out, obviously. But
yeah, I'm excited for you, brother, because that's going to be, an addition along with, you got Stephon Diggs, you got other additions that you made in this past offseason. And, along with, some things that happened in the draft, I just felt like his comments on this definitely raised the question there. And you were definitely the first person I thought of. But if, like you said, if you get 2021 Joe Mixon, this team's going to be dangerous. It's going to be the running back that they needed last year. And, we'll see how things go in 2024. But when it comes to this trade right here, I think that that along with Stephon Diggs Yeah, they are a little bit older than what you would have gotten in the draft, but I feel like this definitely helps take them to another level that they weren't at in the previous season in 2023. So we'll have to see what comes about in 2024. When it comes to UFL, we just talked about the Week 5 games, but Michigan Panthers defensive back Kai Nakua, brother of Puka Nakua, records interceptions in previous 3 consecutive games. Will he remain a force throughout the remainder of the UFL season and forge his path towards a roster spot in the NFL in 2024, Cole?
Yes, but it's going to sound like no when you hear the explanation of my answer. When offensive coordinators see that you have a ball hawk for a DB or a safety even, but definitely a corner, chances are they're going to try to do one of 2 things. Either they're going to try to burn him on double and triple moves, or if they feel as though they can't do that and he still will get picks, or he still will get his pass deflects, or he will still shut down whoever is the number 1 wide receiver that they're going to, then they just simply will ignore his side of the field. So if that were to happen, the answer would be yes, but he might not see the ball thrown in his direction. And if that's the case, I hope NFL scouts can see that and say, okay, so he has offensive coordinators so shook, they don't even go in his direction. Okay, we might have to take out a flyer on him. But, I mean, the Nakua name, we found on the other side of the ball. I mean, any time that Manchester Stafford threw the Puka, he just went up and got it. So it doesn't surprise me that Kai has some chops of football too.
And talking about the Michigan Panthers last week with Cool McCain, he thinks that there's a potential that he joins his brother in LA. They play on the same team. Yeah. And chemistry there for one, be another great addition in the locker room for Puka, Puka had his breakout year last year. So who's to say he might even have a better season this upcoming year if his brother's in the locker room with him. So and especially contributing too. So even if he's second string, but still gets in there for minimal action, but makes an impact to work his way on up the charts, it's still an improvement. And that's where us having the UFL and spring games here can help, springboard these players to the NFL. I mean, looking at Jake Bates, what he's done, we'll talk more about that here in a little bit, but these guys are on the radar now because of what they've been doing in the previous 5 weeks in the UFL. It's going to be interesting to see if they can pick up another Nakua here in the NFL. And moving on back to the NFL, and let's talk about the NFL draft for a minute there, Cole. And besides the shock of drafting quarterback Michael Penix in the first round, the Falcons chose 5 defensive players out of their 8 total picks. Okay. Why did the Falcons hit the defensive front so hard in the 2024 NFL draft? And will taking a quarterback with the first pick hurt the team morale?
Well, they needed to go defensive. There was no question about that. So their target was not surprising. Their first round draft choice was. And will it hurt the team morale? I think it already has, and it's messed up. It has nothing to do with Michael Penix, and it has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. Both of them are outstanding, upstanding guys. So it has nothing to do with them. In fact, even Michael was smart enough to say, "Oh, yeah, everything's fine," and Kirk basically was saying the same thing. Yeah, basically it's mere back of shells. There's nothing to see here. But that's what they're selling to us. However, the first moment, Kirk Cousins has a game where he might throw for 3 picks, or they might be on a 3-game losing streak. Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be cheering for Michael Penix to be in the game. You can't avoid that. And the Falcons didn't have to put themselves in that position. And then on top of it, oh my goodness, this is what really frustrates me. The GM of the team had the nerve to opine, quote, we actually have the luxury of having this wonderful QB, and hopefully he could sit for the next 4 to 5 years. Close quote. So through no fault of Cousins nor Penix, yes, team morale will be hurt. And you have the front office to thank for that.
You know, if he does sit let's say Cousins plays all 4 years and Penix comes in, he'll be 27 years old when he comes in, right? And there's only 2 other quarterbacks that did that at 27. And I believe it's starting at that type of level. And that was Brandon Whedon and Chad Pennington were the 2 that, if I remember reading it right yesterday. So, and Chad Pennington had a decent career. I mean, he was okay, but he kept getting banged up a little bit. Right. I think Aaron Rodgers was 25 or 26 when he came in for Brett Favre. I think he was maybe 26, so still not quite there. So, but here's the thing with Cousins, everybody's saying $180 million contract. $100 million is guaranteed, and they're only on the hook really for the first 2 years of that because $100 million is guaranteed in the first 2 seasons. Third season, he's only guaranteed $10 million. In the fourth season, he's guaranteed a goose egg. So only the first 2 seasons. So really, if Penix develops over the next 2 years, they could potentially deal Kirk Cousins and be on the hook for only $10 million, or let him go and only eat $10 million in dead cap. And you got your quarterback of the future with Penix. But I think that they messed up, though, in the aspect of you should have drafted another Washington Husky at that pick and taken Rome Odunze, because even though you have weapons on your offense, that's
what I was going to go to. Yeah, the one thing they needed was at least give the appearance to Cousins. You want him to be armed with a new weapon.
That tells you that you are all in on your offense and your quarterback, your guy. Right. You know, you guaranteed him $100 million. But like I broke down, it's like they're only really on the hook for that mainly for 2 years. So when they already told Cousins they're going to draft a quarterback within the next 2 years, he maybe thought next year. But based on the talent that was coming out in this draft, and Raheem Morris really, really, really liking Michael Penix, left-handed quarterback too, you know, it's something that's different, you know, but we've also seen problems with left-handed quarterbacks and why they're a rarity in the NFL too, if you really look at it. So I think this is a huge gamble. Had you taken Rome Odunze, that's another piece. You could have shifted some things around and had a great slot receiver somewhere with all those receivers in there, along with what you have with Kyle Pitts and your running game that's getting established too. I mean, I think they dropped the ball on that. However, we could be wrong in the next 2 to 3 years when we see Michael Penix potentially starting and doing some things, but he's had issues with staying healthy too. Both of your 1 and 2 quarterbacks, you know, Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles injury, and then Michael Penix is coming off of his injuries too in college. You know, they may be looking at this as this gives Penix time to fully, truly heal, I guess, from the impact that he took in college, and then really learn and study the game of the NFL. So when he can take over, maybe have a start similar to Aaron Rodgers, or maybe like Patrick Mahomes, you know, maybe not after 1 year of sitting, but after a couple of years, 2 or 3 years of sitting behind Kirk Cousins, maybe, just maybe, you might have something special there. But time will tell. We'll have to see. But that was a huge, huge thing that I had to throw in there for our gridiron scoop for this week when it comes to that. You know, going back to the UFL, the Birmingham Stallions defense has been decimating their opponents throughout the first 5 weeks. Will any UFL offense be able to move the chains enough to serve a loss to this team this season?
Let's see if I can find the answer to this question real fast. I'm thinking real hard. Hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. There you go. I mean, I saw a quarter of this team this past weekend, and they're just clicking so good on defense. I'm like, I don't know who. Other than maybe the Battlehawks, I don't know who can make that defense look silly. I don't. And when you have a defense that's locked in like that, the offense has to play their best game with all 11 players on the field. And that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
The defense that locked in. Yeah.
Oh, it's very tough. And if you had asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have said the Defenders had a decent chance based on what they did the previous season and how they started this year.
Yeah.
But based on their play the past couple of weeks, I've changed my thoughts on that. And the Battlehawks, like you said, are the only team that I see that could potentially serve that one, that one excruciating. However, based on what we've seen throughout the previous 5 weeks, there's a really good chance that does not happen. And this team goes undefeated and could potentially win 3 straight championships because they've won back-to-back USFL championships.
Right.
And now they would potentially be considered, trifecta of 3 straight championships in a new league. And this one would be more impressive because you form 2 leagues into one. You have different competition. It's a different structured league. It's not what you were playing with before. So overall, this would be pretty impressive if you can go undefeated in the regular season, but you have to stay hot throughout the playoffs, and that's going to be something that we'll have to see. Will going hard and going ham throughout the regular season, will that take an effect on them in the playoffs? As it's pretty obvious that at this point they're going to get a spot in the playoffs, but how they round up the regular season would definitely make a difference on where they play in the playoffs. For our last topic here on the Gridiron Scoop, NFL's Roger Goodell talks possibly moving the Super Bowl to President's Day weekend. Would this, along with his thoughts on an 18-game regular season schedule, be beneficial to the league and to the fans?
Okay, if I were to take the brain out of my head, I would say this is beneficial for us as a fan because we get to see one extra week of meaningful football, and we get it pushed back to a holiday weekend. When I put the brain back into my body, I would say all of that is good and cool, but how would it go with the players? And how hard will the NFLPA fight this? Because that is my issue with it, with all this. Obviously, I'm smelling that they're going to shrink the preseason another week, and it looks like they're going to give teams 2 byes during the season. I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay with that if you're going to have the players earn the same amount in 18 games as they would in 16. Because to me, that sounds so the owners are being greedy, which when you hear Goodell talk, he represents the owners. And that's what the 31 owners and the one president that represents the one team that does not have an owner thinks. That's what they all think. Like, okay, cool. 18-week regular season, 2-week preseason will benefit them by giving them a second bye during the season. Cool. We ain't giving them another dime. But this would be great.
Because, the only really, in a perfect world, the only way it can really, truly happen and make sense for everybody is if everybody's contract ended at the end of one season. And then they can restructure it when that all takes an effect. So basically, with 2 bye weeks, you would have a 19-week regular season.
Basically. Right.
And, well, if it's 18 games, you have a 20-week regular season. Because if you have 2 byes,
it'll be 20. It'll be 20.
Yeah, 20-week regular season, which is a lot of weeks. That's an extra game that you got to play. Yeah, you get an extra week of rest in there, but you also it's a lot of figuring out in the scheduling department too. It's going to be some headaches and some migraines happening during the construction of all those schedules. So that would be interesting to see if that comes about. Like you said, brain out of head. Great for the fan overall, but there's too many things to figure out to get to that point. And it seemed like it was that way when we had to move from 16 games to 17. As we had 16 games for a very long time. Before that, it was 14. And before that, it was like 12 or 10 or whatever. But now, that's why it was only 16 games for so long, for so many decades, right? Because you got collective bargaining agreements and so many other things that take an effect of all these things, like you said, with contracts. So, it's cool for him to spew that out to get the fans entertained, on the Pat McAfee show, like Roger Goodell said. But when you look at it as a whole, like you did, from the analyst side of it, there's too many things at bay that you got to figure out in order to make it make sense. And it'd be best just to stick with a 17-game regular season for a while, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least until you can get a handle on, okay, so what would an 18-game season look like? Game season would look like, and will we actually be in lockstep with the players too? Because you need to have that happen. And if they were in lockstep with the ownership group with this, then fine, I'm good with it. I think it's great that you actually have an even amount of games to play. I think that is good. But if you're going to do this at the protest of the players, which going from 16 to 17, that's exactly what happened, with 1,000 players saying, yeah, we'll take it. Another 925 saying, no, we won't. And another 500 saying, we don't give a crap which way you lean. That's not good.
Nope. Not whatsoever. And it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out. We haven't been dealing with 17 games that long. And he's already getting upset about the uneven games in a year. He wants to talk about moving it already. You just about to put your foot in your mouth there, old goody. But when it comes to this right here, Dante Hill is in the house. Welcome back to the show, Dante, there, brother.
What's up?
Says, what's up, guys? Sorry, I'm late. Just watching the Knicks fans troll the 76ers in Philadelphia.
Man, I thought Wells Fargo was MSG South yesterday. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, that's great. I can't even get mad at that. I gotta say this.
You like that? You like that?
I do like that. That's why I had to. But right here with old Melvin jumps back in and says players would act like snowflakes if we go from 17 to 18 games. Well,
they probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point there, Melvin.
Can't argue that.
No. And Dante says, why not make the Super Bowl a holiday? We have holidays for every time else, but this is America's biggest sport. Have banks and schools closed on Monday.
Well, see, here's the thing with that, Dante. So if that were to happen, with President's Day, banks are closed. And I think most schools are closed too. So you would probably get your wish with that. If they just go back that 1 week, there you go.
Yep. So those of you who have bank holidays like that or, work in the school system, you'll be okay. But myself and probably Cole and others that we know will be screwed and still have to go to work the next day. So
now the NBA they would probably hate it because they would probably have to push the All-Star game and break back yet another week.
Yeah, and UFL might have to. I mean, we're not even going to go there, but they're poor marketing and stuff from the past year. I don't even get me started on that, Cole. Man, I lit them up earlier when we started talking spring football. I know, and it was wild, but they need to improve that too.
Yes.
So, but definitely great points there, Dante, and you as well, Melvin, with them being snowflakes because I mean, you got to work more and you don't get more money from it. You're basically doing more for less at that point. And people have a problem with it no matter how many millions of dollars you make to play the game.
Yeah.
But speaking of a game, me and Cole are going to go to the Grand Champ now.
Total football talk.
Where my dog's at? I know where my dog's at. He's back on the show today. Cole Johnson is here, and I'm so hyped. Can't have another stroke, but I'm so hyped, though, because he is here, and I'm excited. We are having one great episode. But when it comes to the Grand Champ out of all 4 games we watched from this past weekend, or just anything with the NFL, it could be a draft selection in the NFL, too. From this past week, who or whom is your Grand Champ there, brother?
That's a good question. And I was trying to debate exactly just that. I'm like, should I pick someone from the UFL or should I pick a team that drafted well? I would love to give it to the Bears. I just get the feeling though they will screw the pooch still. Somehow, with the talent that they have, they will mess things up. So I'm not going to select them. I'm going to select the Calton. No, I'm not. No. I'm feeling generous. So again, like I said earlier, the Renegades they need more victories. It's unfortunate they have these close losses and they're playing tough, but they just can't. They just, as Chris Byrne would say, just can't get off the schneid. So to my man Luis Perez, you my dog, bro, because you're fighting hard. You're competing. You gave us 270 yards and a touch from under center. You're showing that you're willing to fight for the team. The team is taking them back to your lead. They're trying to fight. They just don't have the horses, as a friend of mine would say. But I will tip my cap to you, sir. Good game this week. I'm sorry it did not end up with a W. And yes, I know there is a glaring pick that I could use, but I really did save it for my partner.
Okay. I've got multiple things that I could select for the pick of the week for my grand champ. But I can assure you this, it's not going to be any team in the UFL because they all play terrible past weekend, especially except for the Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Battlehawks, okay? Everything else was just a wish-wash of a weekend. But I'm going to go NFL just because past 4 weeks I've had to go UFL because there was no other football action. This week I'm going NFL. And, you know, like Cole was saying, you could easily go one way with the Bears, but it's still kind of iffy because even though they got two really good players in the top 10 with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze sneaking back in there, which I don't know if anybody would have thought he would have been there with their second selection at 9. But, you know, looking at that right there, I think I'm going to have to go with the Arizona Cardinals or my pick of the week for dog of the week. What they did in this draft, looking at all their picks, Cole, I would be remiss if I can't give them an A- grade for what they did in this past draft. I mean, look at what they did. I mean, it's not just Marvin Harrison Jr. With the 4th overall pick here. Yeah, look at their defensive tackle selection with the number 27 overall pick in the first round as well. Darius Robinson. I mean, he made some noise in college, and they needed some help on that defensive tackle position, okay? Especially at defensive back. They brought in Rutgers' Max Melton at the 43 overall selection. They brought in a running back by the name of Trey Benson from Florida State with the 66 overall pick. They addressed the need on offensive guard. From Illinois, they brought in Isaiah Adams for the 71st overall pick, and they brought in his teammate from Illinois, tight end Tip Reeman, at the 82nd overall pick. Boston College's defensive back Elijah Jones gets selected with the 90th overall pick. Texas Tech's defensive back Dadrian Taylor Demerson with the number 104th overall pick. And with the number 226 pick, they took Jaden Davis from Miami defensive back. So they addressed a bunch of needs at defensive back. They also brought in another offensive lineman, the offensive tackle Christian Jones from Texas. And from Clemson, they brought in linebacker Xavier Thomas. So when you look at all that, along with Tajon Palmer, another wide receiver they took with the 191st overall pick, you know, that's a lot of picks that they had in this past draft. And they weren't slouches either. I mean, I have a feeling that a good portion of these picks that the Cardinals took in this past draft, Cole, are going to be stellar athletes for this team and could help keep Kyler Murray his job because they needed help on that offensive front, which is why they were struggling so bad over the past year or so. They needed to establish some help with the wide receiver core, and they got Marvin Harrison Jr., which can be his stud, but they also got a complimentary piece, and they've been working around with free agency too with that as well to help put decoys around Marvin Harrison Jr. to help out with that a little bit. But looking at everything as a whole, I had to go with a team from the NFL in their draft. And when I was looking through all the picks and all the different teams and what they did, my favorite team from this past draft is as far as their selections and preparation from free agency to the NFL draft and getting ready for upcoming, training camp and stuff and mini camps and OTAs. And for the regular season, I'm excited to see what the Arizona Cardinals can do, because that is my pick for Dog of the Week from this past week's draft.
Okay.
It was a curveball, wasn't it? You weren't expecting that one.
No, I wasn't. I'm proud of you though. Good selection, and I agree with you. It looks like the Cardinals actually are trying their best to commit, and hopefully, my only issue is if Kyler Murray is committed to the team. That's really my only issue with it.
Yes.
That's really my only issue.
And that's too. We've talked about before, because I've called him Kyler Duty because he plays Call of Duty way too much. And from the 40-some episodes we've done between this show and the other programs we've done shows on, as much as I know my hatred for that when it comes to him playing too much Call of Duty, because he needs to be studying that playbook and get back out there and do some things. And I think last year, with the little bit of flashes we saw when he came back, he might have put the controller down a little bit and tried a little bit harder. But now you have better talent around you. They've gone out this offseason and done their best. There is no excuse to not have an improvement in this season and to at least, at minimum, go 9-8. At minimum. You have to have a winning record this year, and you have to be 9-8, in my opinion, for this Arizona Cardinals team. And Dante says Howie is the grand champ, hands down, for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Howie Rosen.
Yes, because of what they did, and getting the draft, taking a pick away from the Cowboys. Don't even get us started with Tyrone Alizé McDummy and the words they've been spewing and how they're all in with the team they have and with the draft picks, but they can't make any moves in free agency.
Talk about you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, and I know you're going to look forward to it, and me too, when we get to the chopping block here momentarily. But he also says we got Quinion Mitchell and AJ extended. Yes, you did get AJ extended. Got both of your wide receivers for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think Devontae got extended earlier. Yeah.
You got your 1A and your 1B wide receiver, and it depends on week to week who your 1A and 1B is. But you can also tell with, like, Cool McCain and I were talking about a week ago, Devontae Smith is definitely developed much faster and is much better than he would have been if with playing with AJ Brown and then not playing with AJ Brown. Like, he has helped him in his game. He's taken him under his wing, and even Devontae Smith has been very vocal about that. So you get, like we told you before there, Dante, you got a good core there at wide receiver, and it's not going to change for a while. Yeah. So the Chiefs, if it doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem fair. Yeah, no. They got another wide receiver.
They lose Mr. Rice. They gain Xavier Worthy. Yeah, it's just it's.
Oh man, it was there. If they win another Super Bowl, people are gonna flip out. Like especially with that. But it just goes to show how much Andy Reid knows football, and how much the Eagles miss him. Because imagine having that amount of championships for the Eagles right now, Dante. But hey, you had to move on. Moving on to Kansas City was probably best for Andy Reid in evolving to get to where he's at now. He might not have been able to do that in Philadelphia.
Now I'm hearing Cool saying Red Walrus now.
What's your thoughts on Washington's draft? I'm not going to go too far into it because tomorrow morning is the return episode of Commander's Gridiron Report right here, as you see. Let me take this comment down. 11:05 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. The return of the show is back for the April one-off episode that you can see tomorrow, and I will give my thoughts on Washington's picks tomorrow, as we got 31 other teams we could talk about on this. I didn't want to take up too much time with that, but I will tell you is this: I'm going to be going hard tomorrow. That's what I'm going to say.
I bet you are.
Yes. I'm going to be going hard.
I'll say this, though. Sam Howell, bye-bye.
Go! Wait, he still has time. He still has time to redeem himself. Do not give up on him. You and Kyle Nash both. And I even told Kyle Nash that episode where I was sick and I couldn't make it. The last time you were here and you were here with Kyle, I
Mhm.
told him the following week, I heard what you said. I heard what you said with Cole, and I'm coming for you. And when I came back for him, I said, he will redeem himself. He will. But he's got to do it in Seattle or maybe somewhere else, but maybe the UFL. I don't know. But he's going to redeem himself somewhere.
Yeah.
Dante, slow your roll in your lane about the Eagles. You got Mick triggered over here about the freaking Eagles there. Mick's team. Mick, don't you like the Titans? I believe, if I remember right, I think you like the Titans, and that's bad for Cole if you like the Titans, because that is Cole's nemesis, like his arch nemesis, if I've ever seen one for an NFL franchise.
Fake Orless. I'll become a Cowboys fan before I become a Titans fan.
Ouch!
That's how
Ouch.
bad it is.
We gotta cool out the trigger and fire that we got right now with our last commercial break. But when we come back, we have got to talk about the 2-minute drill. We've got the chop and block. We got some more discussion from the previous week in the NFL stuff in the news, along with the UFL for the upcoming week. We'll see you guys here on the other side of this final commercial break.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. COMI Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D Willy in the evening,
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
exclusively on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willy Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $, D Willy 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willy Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willy Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willy Bucks?
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D Willy is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are here for the UFL Week 5 recap, Week 6 preview, along with the NFL Draft for episode 35 today. And I'm back here with my man, Cole Johnson, as we have got to get into the next segment, and that is the chop and block. And here with the chop and block, we talked about the Bears earlier with their selections in the NFL draft. And, we've also talked about the Bears with pretty much their tales of woe for, some time now, and how they haven't been able to get back to the Super Bowl since, 2000s. So they haven't won one since 85. But when it comes to this right here, the Bears unveil a $5 billion proposal for new domed Lakefront Stadium as their 100-year contract for Soldier Field ends in 2033. Enticing as it sounds, will the change of scenery be beneficial to this team, and with the new facility accommodations improve their chances of success?
Change of scenery. I mean, it's only going to be what, a few. Change of scenery. It's only be a few hundred yards to the south. They're still going to be on Lake Michigan. They're still going to be in downtown Chicago. I mean, they're basically going to be south of where Soldier Field would be. No. I don't think their fortunes will change. Maybe Bears fan will be happy that they have actually a stadium where they actually might be able to host a Super Bowl. I don't know, but no.
You don't think that having some better whirlpools, some better ice baths in there could help maybe, heal their wounds to where they can come back next week and actually compete?
Well, you're right. You're right. Better whirlpools, better masseuses, better equipment. Yeah, it would make them happy.
Oh, better equipment just to take the L. That's awesome. I love it. That was great. That was absolutely great. When I saw that, Cole, that was a pure and utter total
Surprise, motherfucker.
I did not see that coming. And hey, maybe I did, but for the fans, I wasn't quite sure, because if you think that having a new stadium is going to help them just become a mega success,
Stop it. Get some help.
Absolutely. Because even Bishop's saying,
Hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, to the no.
facts, bruh. Facts. That's all you can say. Yeah, is wow. And even Mickey said in the last segment, no, Drew, stay in your lane. I'm a Hawks fan. Get it right. Yes, you are a Hawks fan. I was absolutely wrong with that. So yes, I take back what I said. When it comes to the Titans and the Cowboys, I don't want to wish that ill will on anybody when it comes to their fanhood.
And what I said earlier about the Titans and Cowboys, I don't take that back at all.
Touche. No. But Chicago will be able to host Super Bowls. He's on the same page with us.
That's the only thing that's different. They'll be able to host Super Bowls. Outside of that, you're still going to have the same team with the same ownership group, with pretty much the same style of front office, which will produce the same amount of that.
He said, I would love for Washington, Philadelphia, New York to get a dome for a Super Bowl. Yes.
I'm surprised New York didn't actually get a dome and put it on top of MetLife. I am surprised at that.
It would be sweet to actually be able to see Washington be able to host a Super Bowl at some point.
Same.
Because out of all the teams and stadiums, there have been several teams that have hosted Super Bowls that absolutely suck, and they still suck to this day. Mm-hmm. As to where Washington does have 3 Super Bowls in their past, it's not recent, okay, and it's not as recent as the Cowboys, okay. I'll give you that too, and it's definitely not as recent as the Eagles or the Giants. Yes, by only 4 years, but I will say that with the historic franchise since they've been in the NFL since 1932, like you need to give them a place. The ownership hopefully will do a good job with the land that they have acquired in the purchase of this team, and they can move the stadium there and build something great, because that all came with the sale of the team. So hopefully, but it's still going to be another 7 to 10 years before we see anything groundbreaking on that potentially.
Yeah, where in Northern Virginia?
Dumfries.
Okay.
Dumfries. But Snyder had bought the land before he'd even sold it, and it was all like compiled into the assets when the team was sold, which is why it was sold for so much.
So Dumfries, that's near Dulles, isn't it?
It's actually it's closer. Like, you know, when I drive there, I pass through Dumfries to get there, so I think it would actually save me like 20 or 30 minutes of a drive if they actually moved it there, which would be fantastic because it already takes 2.5 hours or so to get there.
Right.
And that's if you are going a little bit over the speed limit. But hey, you know, hopefully you're not listening in and watching out for me right now. But hey, Mickey, your team used a pick for a quarterback in the first round after signing Cousins. No, Mick is not a Falcons fan. Mick is a Seahawks fan.
He's a Seahawks fan.
So Mick will not have as much success as the Falcons this year, more than likely. I'm sorry, Mick. I'm just being real. Like, unless you got some younger talent that's been drafted in the past couple of years in the Pete Carroll era that developed, and I don't think so because you got a new coaching and new system in place. It's just not looking the greatest for you there, Mick. You know, you can talk all your smack about the Commanders. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11:05 a.m. Eastern time to continue in on that smack talk.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Yeah. He said, just don't have Uncle Foot anywhere near Soldiers Field. Oh, that was great. Oh, that was great. I love it.
That's terrible.
But it's great.
Anywhere near Soldier Field, that's great.
Oh man, thank you, Sick, for that one. You know, and also Dante says most of the population is in northeast. Northeast kind of sucks to travel. Yeah, but it's great for 1 or 2 times, you know, per year. But the revenue would be great. Yeah, you know, I agree with that. And it definitely will help Dumfries out because there's not much going on for Dumfries except for if they bring the stadium there.
Well, I mean, to go a little bit off tangent. I mean, WrestleMania was hosted this month. It was in one of those northeastern cities, and it pulled in a record gate for the event. So, to your point, Dante, there you go. And Philly. So, there you go.
And I bet they sold through a lot of cheesesteaks. And the surrounding businesses definitely appreciate when you have some big stuff going on right there because it brings in more revenue for everyone.
Everybody.
So definitely awesome to see with that. So, and of course, if you haven't already, guys, subscribe now and never miss out on new content between COMI Media and SIRTOBA Media when you have that. But let's go ahead and take it on to the next one.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Right here, next, we go back to the UFL there, Cole. Jake Bates, UFL kicker and Detroit Lions target, is human after all by missing his first field goal of the season on a 58-yard shank yesterday. He was 6 of 6 going into that game and missed his first field goal of the season. Will the result from this one display of an absolute dumpster Pelicanship hurt his potential NFL opportunity this year?
No. I mean, you have a guy that now is on record in booting a 64-yarder. I can only think of one kicker that booted one further, and that's Justin Tucker from 66. And that thing hit the crossbar before it went over. This dude cleared the crossbar from 64. So teams will see that. They'd say, oh, you can kick it from far and straight? Okay. All right, well, we can look at it. Look, 58 yards and missing it, I'm not going to be like, bum. I'm not going to be like that. No. Now, if he was from 38, maybe. 28, definitely. 58, no. You can't. I mean, it is difficult for kickers to make 50-plus yard field goals on the regular anyway. So the fact that he missed a 58-yarder, I'm not going to shame him for it. And I don't think NFL teams are either.
Yeah, and especially when you think of, you know, the Battlehawks would be undefeated right now if it wasn't for him. Like that wouldn't be the case. We would not be talking about that today had it not been for Jake Bates and that 64-yarder. And he was iced before that and had made the field goal before that. So he made consecutive 60-plus yard field goals. So to be able to do that under that kind of pressure, that's something that the NFL wants when it comes to their type of talent on their team. Somebody that cannot be shook. And
Right.
that's what I see when I see this guy right here. I figured it posed a good question,
Mhm.
but overall, when you look at Jake Bates, I think he's still going to have an opportunity to at least try out for the NFL. Does he make the final cut? Who knows? But we'll have to see when it comes to his journey through the NFL.
Who's giving them the business?
Our next one on the chopping block, the Dallas Cowboys owner, Gerald, remains adamant that they are all in despite a quiet free agency and lackluster selections in the NFL draft. Are you buying or selling the goods that the aging owner is bestowing upon us?
Gerald, Lord have mercy. Yeah,
I tried.
I love it though. I just love saying his name. And it's probably not how he pronounces it, but it just sounds better saying Gerald instead of Gerald. But am I buying or selling?
Sell.
Yeah. Randolph, say it again.
Sell.
Yeah. And one more time. In fact, old man to old man. What should I do?
Sell.
Yeah.
Sell
it all the way. Come on, man. So you mean tell me they let Tony Pollard walk? They don't get anything in return. They just let him walk. And to me, this typifies their free agency and their draft. They let Tony Pollard walk, and they re-sign Ezekiel Elliott.
That's terrible.
I can't, and Drew can't make this stuff up.
Mm-mm.
That right there in a nutshell is how the offseason for the Dallas Cowboys has been. They let Tony Pollard walk. He's now a Titan. And in from the back door steps Ezekiel Elliott because they decided to kick him to the curb not too long ago. But now he's their RB1 again.
I guess we can call him the backdoor bandit now.
Oh,
especially when that one game when like his pants ripped or something, he had Barbie boxers on or whatever it was when he was playing with the Cowboys before, or whatever it was back in the day. So that's hey, at least he gets to potentially rewrite the wrong, as his final play so far in a Cowboys uniform was that stupid formation where he hiked the ball and that utter display of a meltdown in a game. Like, at least he gets a chance to rewrite his wrong. But I don't know how much better he'll be able to do, considering what he's still got the same coach.
Mike McCarthy, you was going exactly what I was about to head. Mike McCarthy should take one for the team. He should line up under center, get a little closer, have Ezekiel Elliott be center, and he snaps the ball and it hits Mr. McCarthy in the groin.
Like, how do you keep McCarthy and bring back Zeke? But you could have let McCarthy go, and you could have brought in, arguably, to what a lot of people are saying is the greatest coach of all time. You could have brought in Belichick, considering they have that chemistry there, that friendship, and he would not have brought Zeke back. He would have made a smarter move at the running back position. Probably not giving up a pick to the Eagles either.
Even though that does make better football logical sense, I just get the feeling Mr. Kraft said to Gerald. When it came to Belichick.
I mean, same thing with the Falcons too. They probably got phone calls. Cowboys probably got a phone call from Kraft on it, just like the Falcons did. Trying to persuade him, but luckily they hadn't made that move. I guess in their opinion, they hadn't made that move yet by letting him go. But when you put it all in perspective, it's like he didn't work out with the hoodie last year, even though that team is. It didn't have the pieces around them in New England that they have in Dallas. The sad thing is Dallas has pieces there, but they have bad leadership. And they've got a couple other pieces that are lingering around that need to go, that are taking too much money they could be spending in other areas to have a complete team. So that's just something that we've seen for nearly 30 years out of the Cowboys since they last had success in the NFL. Putting too much one way and not enough in the other department.
Oh my gosh. See, this is I'm sorry, Drew. See, this is why we laugh at the Cowboys. We actually think, not just the fandom, we actually believe that the front office has these fools running it.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Praise.
This off season is just, I'm not even, and Drew definitely is not a Cowboys fan. This offseason for the Cowboys has been atrocious. I don't get why they've been selling us this. Well, I think we got the right team. I think we got the right chemistry. And I think we got it all. We got the chance to go all the way to Super Bowl. No, you don't. 3 12-5 seasons, and you only have one playoff victory to show for it in that 3-season span. Come on, man. No. And you got blown out at home in your last playoff game, and the previous home playoff game you lost. Oh, you lost because your quarterback thought that the center could spot the ball instead of the referee. Come on, man. No.
I still say at least he gets a chance to rewrite his wrong from his last previous play, and that was, old Zeke. But, putting everything in perspective, do
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
When it comes to the Cowboys, this team right here doesn't surprise me one bit, and it doesn't surprise Cole one bit either, based on what we've seen from year in and year out since this team has started to fall apart from the time that they let Jimmy Johnson go. I mean, they got another Super Bowl, but that was it. Like, they were just literally coasting off of the success that they had previously, and ran the same system and everything until it was all figured out by the rest of the league, and they haven't had success on that level since. So, putting it in perspective, Dante says kickers are people too. Until they miss a field goal, then they are expendable, going back to Jake Bates. Yes. But not many people can kick 60-plus yard field goals consecutively, like being iced into it. Yeah. We've seen 52-yard attempts in the NFL. They get iced. They miss it on the next one. But 64? Come on now. That's he's special. I think he's going to stick around for a while.
I agree.
Jerry Jones seen a meme that Caitlin Clark sold more jerseys than their players, and now we're here. And Mick says that he's sorry as I blanked up my computer. So it's all good there, Mick, I guess. If the Bear move, will the team get a happy end? If he's saying that the Bears move, they will get a happy end. I guess. But if you go back to what Cole and I were saying earlier, you can have all the whirlpools in the world, but it is not going to change the outcome.
Well, the coach needs to change. Yeah.
Yes. No. Eberflus is not the guy.
No, his name close.
Yeah. From the name to the person is not the guy. Sorry. But Dallas is a culture problem, just like the University of Texas had players that enjoy being a Cowboy, then winning, according to Micah Parsons.
I can't argue that. I would love to. Can't. And I'm University of Texas fan, but can't argue that. That's facts too, Dante. Yeah.
There it is. There it is, guys. I got one more bonus question for you before we move on there, Cole. After looking at the draft this past week, we talked about, like our dogs of the week, and we'll go into snowflakes here shortly. But as far as was there any team out there, we talked about the Falcons earlier, but was there a team out there that really disappointed you with their selections? And we said what we said about the Cowboys, but just any other team that you can really think of in the whole NFL that you just look at and you're like, man, you could have done better with what you had.
There's a couple. Uh, look, I look at the Browns and I'm thinking to myself, you got a squad, but you still have pieces. I'm not sure you addressed all of them. They somewhat disappointed me. Definitely the Panthers did, because it's sort of it's like, well, what do I expect? Dave Tepper fighting with people in his Charlotte restaurant, saying that he took exception to a sign saying, "Hey, step out the way and let the people in the war room actually pick the players." I mean, I thought the organization of Jerry Richardson was a laughing stock, but it turns out that they actually were choir boys compared to Dave Tepper, because they are a laughing stock for sure now. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's you drafted a quarterback. You got to surround him with talent. You got to surround him with people to protect him. I don't know if you did that thoroughly. And it's frustrating to me when I see teams that they have pieces and they don't build properly around them. And I felt for Bryce Young last year. I feel for him this year. And Tepper's going to say, "Well, I got a guy from the Dolphins in free agency. Cool. Also get some people in the draft too to help him out." And last I checked, your position players aren't all that solid either. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they to be picking high in the draft, they disappointed me, and I really did not like the fact they traded down. I didn't care that the Chiefs were the trading partner, but I just did not like the fact they traded down. I'm like, you need all the help you can get, and you should be like, look, there's no way we can trade our picks. But then again, you did the stupid thing. You decided you wanted Bryce Young, and you gave the number 1 for this year to the Bears. So there you go. It's just things like that frustrate me.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, because, I would say the Falcons, they address needs on the defense, but with what they did with Penix with the 8th pick, it kind of it brings them back down to reality a little bit more of as far as to where we see why they're where they're at right now. For the Browns, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That was going to be my choice in this answer too. And when you look at it with trading down, that affected them because, their 54th overall pick, they took defensive tackle Michael Hall Jr. Their 85th overall pick, they took the offensive guard out of Michigan, Zach Zinter, which, in my opinion, with the 85 pick, he was a pretty good selection there. They needed to address that pick to help with that offensive line a little bit. But going down further, Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash at the number 156, that I don't feel like that really helps them as much when you're taking a wide receiver that late in the draft. Mississippi State's linebacker Nathaniel Watson, along with South Dakota's defensive back Miles Harden, and Cincinnati's defensive tackle Jawan Briggs narrow out the only 6 selections that the Browns had in this draft. If you were to ask me, in all honesty, I would say they have a C- for their draft. Because I didn't give anybody really a D in this draft, but C- was my lowest grade, and I have them at C-, and I have the Falcons at a C+, and those are the only 2 teams that ranked that low. I even gave the Cowboys a better ranking than that, but not by much. But still,
no, not by much. Not
by much, but at least better than those 2 teams.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I really like what the Cardinals did. I really like what the Chargers did too. They made some good moves in this pick in this draft, and I'll talk more about it on tomorrow's episode. But I like what the Commanders did, and especially bringing in Luke McCaffrey. You brought in a McCaffrey there, and if he's anything close to Christian, he's gonna do some things in the NFL. Hopefully, with this team. So,
yeah, I was actually going to say on the other end, Commanders surprisingly good, and not just because of Jaden Daniels. The McCaffrey pick, to me, I think is a good one too.
And it's going to be fun to It's going to be fun to see how things pan out for your team and my team, not the Cowboys, unless they lose. But it'll be fun to see how things pan out. But to keep the fun going, we got to get to my favorite part of the show. And that is the Snowflake of the Week.
Total football talk.
Oh, yeah. It's that time again. Snowflake of the Week. And looking at everything we saw in this past week, Cole, who do you think, in your opinion, is your pick for the Snowflake of the Week?
Now, I was being magnanimous in throwing out the platitude of dumpster pelicans. I still have to go with the Falcons. I still have to go with them. You hit the nail on the head, Drew. You sign a free agent QB. You roll a Brinks truck worth $100 million to his front doorstep. And you're saying out of this $180 million contract, $100 million that is guaranteed to be yours. So no matter what, he's guaranteed to get $100 million. You make that heavy amount of a commitment to this guy 1 month, and then you decide to draft your quarterback of the future the next month. And oh, by the way, it would be cool if you did it, I don't know, say the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round. No. You have a pick high up in the draft, number 8 overall, and you decide to pick a quarterback. Now, I'm not going to throw shade on Michael Penix, but I will say that this tells me that the NFL thought this young man was a prospect and a project. They actually thought this guy was a project, and if they didn't think it, there wouldn't have been a team that already has the quarterback needs of now solved, and then they would still go after someone that high up. And having the brass explain to Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, why they screwed up so bad in the war room, that to me was the cherry on top of the sundae. Because if I were Blank, I would say the same thing to them. I'm like, you went out and got Cousins from the Twin Cities just 6 weeks ago. Why are you putting out a flyer for another quarterback? So now we have the situation of on any given Sunday, we have Dennis Quaid, who's about to walk out the door, and then you have a guy who's young and throwing up in huddles that could take his place, but is not skilled enough nor experienced enough to do so. But then again, just like with your divisional rival, just a little bit ways north and east of you, you did not disappoint. When you take that 1 step forward, you took the 2 steps back, and now you invited controversy. Well done, Falcons. Well done. Jeez.
I absolutely love it. That was a great selection for the Snowflake of the Week. And, as much as I want to go back to the NFL and showcase that part as my Snowflake of the Week, I am going to go back to the UFL. And I'm going to go back to a team that I was giving praise to last week that absolutely let me down this past week. And that is the DC Defenders are my selection for the Snowflake of the Week, and preferably their running back core. Why? Because on 30 attempts, they mustered only 84 yards on the ground. That was one of their highlights of the day. Jordan Ta'amu throws 3 interceptions. Congratulations. The Battlehawks were not looking like this.
You're fucking scared. Yeah, you're fucking scared, man.
They were not scared. They were not scared whatsoever. So when I sit here and I think of the fact that I have to watch these games, right, to be able to sit here and tell you what's up. I literally have to know what's up. And I'm watching these games. And I'm watching that game. And I wanted to poke my eye out with a spork. A plastic spork of all sporks. So it breaks off and it stays in my eye as a reminder of never watch this team again. Is how I felt. Because if you're going to do that, after all the hype that you had, going 9-1 last year, go into the playoffs, got the championship game and you lost, and I forgave you for that. But then we got to this season. And I don't know if I can forgive you for losing 45-12. Absolute display of dumpster pelicanship out there by the DC Defenders. I, as a supporter of DC and DMV area sports, cannot sit here and watch this and not say anything. If it was the Commanders, you've seen me on the previous 20 episodes of that show. I'll light them up when I have to. And here with the Snowflake of the Week, I'm going to light up the DC Defenders for you guys to have the record that you have right now. You're lucky. You're very lucky to have those 2 victories that you have. But those 3 defeats are definitely overshadowing those 2 victories right now, and rightfully so. And if you don't turn it around, you are not making the playoffs this year. You still have a chance. 2-3 is better than 1-4 and 0-5. But you guys have got to turn it around if you're going to have any hope at all at making it into the playoffs this year. So we shall see. But with that said, we'll take this into the 2-minute drill and recap this upcoming week in football. And Cole, when we look at this week in football right here, these 4 games, we got the Birmingham Stallions and the Memphis Showboats Saturday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We got the Houston Roughnecks Saturday as well, traveling to St. Louis, take on the Battlehawks 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. First game on ABC, second game on Fox. You know, on Sunday, we got the 2 games, Arlington Renegades and the Michigan Panthers. That first 1 p.m. game on Fox, and then at 4 o'clock on Fox, you got San Antonio Brahmas and the DC Defenders, taking on at that time as well. When we look at these games right here, and especially we'll start off with the Birmingham Stallions, who are 5-0, traveling to Memphis, taking on the 1-4 Showboats. What are your thoughts here with this 12 o'clock game on Saturday between these 2 teams?
The Showboats will have their second win of the season. And if you think I'm serious, Drew knows I'm not, but if you think I am,
that was a lie.
you have a team in the Showboats that struggle on offense, and you have the Stallions who, no matter what offense they see, they shut it down. Yeah, they'll be headed to Memphis, but I think this is going to be this should be a cakewalk for them, just like it was when they went to Houston this past week. It will be this past Saturday. It will be a cakewalk this coming Saturday. So yeah, I see the Stallions going to 6-0.
I agree wholeheartedly, and just like in this next transition, they're going to be giving them the business. The Stallions take it, and they will be 6-0 after this game.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
And the next game up, Saturday, the second game at 3 o'clock, we have the Houston Roughnecks, who are 1-4, taking on the 4-1 Battlehawks in St. Louis on Fox. Again, your thoughts with this one? Do you think the Battlehawks improved to 5-1?
Yeah, I think they will. Look, AJ McCarron, I think he is showing that he is really loving life in XFL, now UFL land. And I think having this new lease on life and having the ability to play quarterback again, almost as good as when he was in Alabama. I think the rest of the team, just like they did last year when they were pushing for the playoffs, you're seeing it, and I don't see that slowing down anytime in this game at all. My Roughnecks are going to be 1-5.
And I'm going to have to agree and double down on this one as well. I'm sure we're going to disagree on one of these last 2 games, but at least for this one, I'm going to say the Battlehawks win, improve to 5-1, and Cole's Roughnecks unfortunately fall to 1-5.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
Moving on to our Sunday games here. The winless 0-5 Arlington Renegades travel to Michigan to take on the Michigan Panthers, who are 3-2 at 1 o'clock on Sunday on Fox. What are your thoughts with this game? Do we have an upset here, or do the winning teams continue to streak and the Panthers get the victory here?
I feel for the Renegades. For the exception they play in the Metroplex, I feel for this team. I mean, they are the example of Brandy. Almost doesn't count. And unfortunately, they'll go to Detroit and it'll be almost doesn't count yet again. I think the Panthers are I think they're trying to find their way. I really believe that this is an opponent that if they actually treat them with respect, they can have their way with them. But this will be a game. I don't think the Renegades will just simply throw the white flag and roll over. The Panthers will get a game out of the Renegades, but the Panthers just are a little bit better.
I like your take on that, but I want to choose an upset, and I'm going to choose it here, and I'm going to choose the Renegades get their first win of the year. They're going to be 1-5 after this game. And I say this based on the fact that they're out of their previous 5 games, 3 out of the 5, they've been really close to winning those 3 games out of the 5. Mm-hmm. And they've got to break through. And I feel like this is the team right here. They almost did it against the Defenders when they lost by 1 point. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when I think about the Panthers here, and, they're 3-2, but those 3 wins, they could easily be 2-3 or 1-4 right now with some of the way those games have shifted. And if it wasn't for Jake Bates, they wouldn't have gotten 2 of those 3 victories, right? So looking at it right here, if Jake Bates doesn't rebound from that 58-yard shank from this past weekend, they have to rely on him again. They have to figure out an identity enough for themselves to be able to rely on the team besides the kicker to get them over the hump. And yeah, they did it this past week against the Showboats, 35-18. But I got a feeling, as gritty as this Arlington Renegades team is, they are 0-5. But Luis Perez leads the league in passing yards. Okay, so he's slinging the rock. It's their running game and their defense that's been letting them down. So if they can get over the hump here, which the Panthers, the Michigan Panthers, have not really done a great job on the defensive side when it comes to pass protection here. So when I look at that and think about what Luis Perez has done around the league, I feel like you said, it's going to be a close game, but I feel like it's going to come down to the wire. It may potentially even go into overtime, and we could see this Panthers team get to 3-3 and lose to a winless team in the 0-5 Renegades. That is my selection for this week as I'm picking the upset.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
So we'll see how that one goes. I figured you would like an upset at some point. So that was my pick, because in this next game, we have the San Antonio Brahmas, who are 4-1, traveling to D.C. to take on the 2-3 D.C. Defenders, who I just lit up with my Snowflake of the Week pick. When you think about all that there, Cole, do you think that the Defenders lose again and fall to 2-4, or will the Brahmas suffer the loss here and fall to 4-2?
Well, here is where I will pick my upset. I actually think the Defenders will. I think they'll lick their wounds. I think they got humbled, and sometimes you need a little humbling. Sometimes sometimes you need that iron sheik butt whooping. Sometimes you need to be made humble. And I think they were made humble this past week. I think they'll go home. I think they'll look at the Brahmas, who, they're battling, they're scrapping, they're scratching. They want to make the playoffs. I'm not sold on them being a true contender yet. And because of that, I'll pick the upset, and I'll have the Defenders actually beat the Brahmas.
Okay. And that's a good pick too. Had the Defenders not upset me as much for me to give them the Snowflake of the Week pick, and had they not played the way they had been this past weekend, I would probably be on board with you with that in saying that would be my upset of the week. But, based on, I don't want to give 2 upsets in a week. And I really feel like the Arlington Renegades are due for a win, and the Defenders, just the way they played last weekend, just really, really, really let me down. I picked them last week to win and upset the Battlehawks, and I just don't have it in my heart to do that this week. I'm going with the Brahmas to 5-1, and the Defenders fall to 2-3. 2-4.
Who's giving them the business?
With that being said, let's go ahead and move this on into our post game, and give our final thoughts towards the end of the show.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. That's great.
Episode 35 is rounding it out and rounding home right now. It's a baseball term, but I guess it can work right here for football. But right here, Cole, when it comes to everything we've experienced in this past week, NFL draft, UFL, we're getting closer to CFL time as well. What are your thoughts, rounding out episode 35 of Total Football Talk?
All right. So we now are on the heels of another NFL draft, and congratulations, Detroit. You all did a wonderful job these past 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was good to see the excitement from fans of all 32 teams congregate again, and it was also beautiful to witness dreams coming true. And we can talk about reality TV, but the best reality TV is that seeing with some players that we followed in college and some that we didn't, they get their number called or name, and you see those dreams being fulfilled right before your very eyes. Part of why I love watching football is I love seeing that, and we get a chance to witness it. And that's what makes the draft so beautiful. And to me, the NFL does it better than any other league, hands down. I mean, every other league is trying to make pointers or trying to get pointers from the NFL as to how they actually produce their drafts so they could do it better. I'm looking forward to the 2024 NFL season because I think we're going to be seeing a lot of shifting. And I'm not even just talking about my Texans. I mean, just many different teams. I mean, I can go down the line. The Ravens with Derrick Henry, the Chiefs now with Xavier Worthy in place of Rashee Rice. The Eagles, can AJ Brown actually be the stud that it was 2022 or the roadblock 2023? I mean, the Cowboys, can Mike McCarthy actually get out of the way of the team? I mean, I can just run down the list of what I would like to see in NFL, and that starts in about 4+ months in terms of the regular season. What I also love is that the stories don't end at the draft. You got the UFL and even the CFL to a slighter degree, where we get a chance to see players who may not have caught the eye of a team, or they may have caught the eye of a team, and they just have to work on that one extra skill or a couple of extra skills or get a couple of more reps to be NFL ready. The dream of being a player is real. And when you watch the UFL and you watch the NFL draft, I think that is what you should, that's what we all should come away with, understanding that this is a rough sport. Not a question about that. But when it's played well, it is one of the most beautiful things to ever watch. And when you see grown men put themselves on the stage where they can change other people's lives, it makes life all the richer for it. And then we get to see their talent on display every Saturday or Sunday. None better than that.
Well said, brother. Well said, especially when you combined all the leagues into one one closing statement. That was great. And speaking of shifting, you saw the commercial earlier, guys. But right here, again, you got to make sure you go back. If you have not seen the inaugural episode, go back and check out the first episode of the morning shift with Cole Johnson. A PS3 morning shift Cole Johnson presentation. So go back, check it out. Give his YouTube channel a like and subscribe for that new channel as well as BS3 Network if you haven't followed it yet either. Got some great content over there. Looking forward to jumping on this show with Cole at some point. And talk about some things. He's got to get it off the ground, got to get the feet wet, got to get it set just right. Hey, I know all about that. As I got some things to talk about here with my post game too. First of all, football guys, it was a great week this past week. It was like Christmas for those of you who follow the NFL, like seeing you get your new presents and your new toys and you get ready to go play with them this fall. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. Then you see the UFL and you think, what in the all types of blue hell am I watching in these 4 games? Because it was absolutely terrible, as Charles Barkley says. But to smooth all that over, today has been a glorious day. My man is back. Cole is back. We got our show on Mondays now. It's the second week we've had, Total Football Talk on Mondays at our new time. This is the best time for Cole and myself to make it work with our really wild and busy schedules with our careers and with the other shows that we do out here on these streams. And I'm really happy that Cole has his morning show and something that he's talked about for quite a long time, especially as long as I've known him. He wanted to have some type of project like this. And he finally got off the ground today. And on the day that he got it off the ground, he's back here. So I'm complete, bro. I'm like a Total Football Talk 100 happy right now. Everything is back in place. We got some new intro, outros, a commercial. If you haven't seen it, Cole has been on fire. His hands need to be iced. He needs to jump in the whirlpools the Chicago Bears to get with that $5 million proposal, is what I'm going to say there. But when it comes to, we talked about the morning shift, that just started today. I told you earlier that tomorrow, Commander's Gridiron Report is back for the first time in 2 months. So it's one-off episode to recover to recap the draft. But that's not all, you guys. If you didn't see D Willy in the evening last night, I've got this for you.
Oh my gosh.
And that breaking news is this. It's been 133 days since you've seen this. And after 7 more days, you'll see it again. Episode 106 of the In or Out Sports Debate is here. Next Monday at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time, Kyle Nash joins me and is back to get up the leaderboards of that show again. As we've gone through the first 105 episodes up to last December. But it's been 133 days since that show has been here. And, my work schedule was different for a while. Last fall, it abruptly changed from 4 days to 5. And now, starting this week, I haven't even had a chance to tell Cole this yet. Starting this week, my schedule changed again, but for the better. It's back to 4 days, Wednesday through Saturday. And but I do 1 week a month. 1 week a month, I have to work 5 days. So it's extra overtime. I have to work Tuesdays, 1 day a month. So you'll have the In or Out Sports Debate on Monday nights. You'll have D Willy in the evening time on Sunday nights. You'll have this show in the afternoon on Monday. And you'll have Commander's Gridiron Report in the fall back to every single Tuesday. But it's going to be probably 1 to 2 times a month throughout the off season. And then we announced a while back, Beyond the Streams, the one-on-one show, the interview show that I'll be having with people out here in the streams is going to be more than likely a Tuesday night show, which will air 3 nights a month during those 3 Tuesdays that I'm off. So there's your breaking news for Total Football Talk. This episode 35 has definitely been a fun one. Having my dude back as we celebrated the UFL Week 5 recap, the NFL draft analysis, and of course, being here for episode 35. But Cole, there's one thing I've missed in the 41 days that I've missed you, my man, and that is the way you close out the show. Tell them, just tell them.
Oh, okay. So you want me to close out the show? All right. Well, all right. Well, if you want to follow Mr. Drew Willingham on the social medias, all you have to do is go to either Instagram at SIRTOBA_media, Twitter at SIRTOBA_media, or TikTok at _SIRTOBA, and SIRTOBA media on YouTube, of course. And for me, if you want to follow me, no matter what platform it is, go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Man, it actually feels good to be back. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, as in football, keep your head up. And always remember, keep on playing until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.